We got a bear
trying to eat something
near the trail ahead of us. This is exactly actually what I was hoping would not happen. Hey everybody, so we just checked into the Crescent Lodge in Olympic National Park. We flew in from Nashville today. Today is Saturday. I'm exhausted, been up since 4:30, and there's a lot of smoke here right now. So I mean, obviously we knew there were a lot of wildfires, and we knew that there were a lot of fires in the eastern part of Washington, but it's a little bit smokier than I anticipated. So we're doing the Seven Lakes Basin, the High Divide Loop. We're starting that tomorrow. We're going to be there for 3 days, 2 nights, and hopefully the views aren't impeded too much by the smoke. So we're going to get an early start tomorrow, probably get breakfast here, drive like 30-40 minutes over to the trailhead and start early. Tomorrow's going to be the biggest day that we have. It's about 7.4 miles and about 4,000 feet of elevation gain. Tomorrow's going to be really the only hard day. The other 2 days are going to be easy by comparison. I'll see you guys in the morning, and let's hope for the best. All right, we just left the trailhead parking lot at Solduck, and we have no idea what the smoke conditions are going to be like up there. We talked to the ranger at the gate where you buy your parking pass entrance fee, and he said he would not recommend doing the loop, but I mean that's like the general recommendation. I mean the general recommendation is that you shouldn't even be outdoors. You know, they're not saying that it's a legitimate hazard. I think that that's just the most cautious position for them to take, so that's what they're telling people basically. I mean, clearly if it were a dire situation, they would just close down the entire park or sections of it. So we're just going to kind of, take it as it comes, and if it looks too bad as we start to climb, we'll turn around. Today is the only hard day. It's about 7.4 miles and 3,944 feet of gain to get up to Lunch Lake. So Lunch Lake is where we're staying tonight. Day number 2 will be just shy of a 4-mile hike with about 1,500 feet of gain and about 1,500 feet of loss as well to Heart Lake. So that's going to be an easy short day. And then day number 3 will be, I think, about 7 miles to complete the loop. That entire day from Heart Lake back down to the trailhead will be all downhill the entire way. So only really one difficult day, which will be today. And we're just really hoping that there's not a lot of smoke as we start to climb. All right, we are 1.7 miles into the hike. Just came to the second bridge, second waterfall. So far, everything's going good. I haven't really noticed it getting any smokier. And this buff around my neck is actually, it's not for coronavirus. It's not really for the smoke either. I just use it when it's kind of 60 or below. Helps me keep my nose from running. Whenever you're exerting yourself, at least with me, my nose tends to run if it's not warm out. We have not passed any other backpackers coming down this direction, which is not surprising considering that most people do the loop counterclockwise, which is what we're doing. So it's very unlikely we would see people coming down this direction unless they were backpackers who went up to Deer Lake or Lunch Lake and decided to turn around because it was too smoky. It's kind of a good sign, although that could sort of be explained by the fact that, or the possibility, that there are just no backpackers out here, which I don't think is the case, because we saw a lot of cars at the trailhead that had like sun visors up and stuff you wouldn't do if you were just coming out for 2 hours or so. All right, so we continue to climb. Still have not seen anybody since the waterfall, the first waterfall that all the day hikers go to, which is like 1.5 miles in. It's going to be interesting to see if there's anybody at Deer Lake, or, and this is probably more likely, I don't think we're going to see anybody that's just getting to Deer Lake, because we started early. I mean, we started at about 8:15, 8:30. So there's not going to be anybody that's already at their campsite. That's highly unlikely anyway. But there could be people coming back who stayed at Deer Lake last night. All right, we made it to Deer Lake, and there is a tent across the lake. I see someone fishing. We're gonna try and talk to these people. We're gonna stop for lunch and find out if they happen to do the loop counterclockwise, and see if they can give us any information about what it's like. All right, so we just talked to two people. Actually, these are not the two people we saw, but two additional people, and got really good news. So they did the loop counterclockwise, and the air quality, it sounds like, is basically the same as it is here. You know, obviously it sucks, but they actually said the first day, this is their fourth day, the last day, that they had a clear day. I think the first night they said was clear. You could see Mount Olympus and everything. I'm hoping that either if a little bit of rain comes in, or if the winds are blowing from the west to the east, that it'll push some of the smoke out. But we're gonna stop here and eat lunch. Okay, we're packed up, finished lunch, and we're just leaving Deer Lake. I had a tuna wrap and a Cliff Bar. Put one of those electrolyte packets in my water, chugged that. It's like the Emergency brand. They have like little electrolyte packets. We started bringing those on every trip. We used the liquid IV ones before. Someone gave us those. Those are more expensive. I don't know if those are really worth the money. I think they're about 3 times the cost of the emergency ones. But we've been told there's no more water between here and Lunch Lake, which is about 3.5 miles roughly. So we're carrying about 1 liter each. We won't need any more than that until we get to Lunch Lake. So I had to pop this stocking hat on. My shirt was drenched in sweat from just going, it's pretty much uphill nonstop. And it started to get a little chilly when we stopped, so I popped this hat on. Definitely helped a lot. It's just a miniature lake. It's like a 1/4 mile after Deer Lake. Don't know if it's big enough to have a name. My pack weight for the trip, prior to a couple additions I'm going to mention, was 24 pounds. That includes food, which means a bear can in this area because they're required. So 24.2 pounds, including a bear can, including all of our food for myself and my wife. And then in addition to that, you'd have to add the Canon M50 camera, 2 batteries, the Pedco UltraPod 2, which is a little miniature vlogging tripod that I'm using right now. And in the fanny pack on my waist, I have a Glock 19. Total pack weight with no water, probably somewhere around 28 pounds. Trail just opened up for the first time since Deer Lake, and the sun's out, as you can see, but it's mostly blocked by the smoke. But it's still nice to see it. We did talk to another backpacker who came by us at Deer Lake, and he said he was coming out early because you couldn't see anything up at the top. So I think he'd done a couple nights already up there, but still good news in the context of it's not unbearable up there. You know, the same thing could happen on a foggy, just luck of the draw. If you get a couple foggy nights or foggy days, you might not be able to have a view either. The good news is it feels like the wind, at least at Deer Lake, was coming out of the west, blowing west-east, which would push the smoke, out of here. I don't know how quickly that would happen or how strong of a wind you would need for that to happen in 24 hours or 48 hours, but it certainly isn't going to hurt, because there are no fires west of here. Since we got to that opening, it's been open the whole way. It's been really nice. The views, even though you can't see that far off in the distance, I mean, just the things in your immediate area immediate surroundings are really pretty. And the air quality up here is actually much better. You cannot smell any smoke at all. I think that might be because, number one, the wind, but number two, maybe the trees are sort of holding some of that smoke. It's just not as affected by the wind, and it doesn't dissipate from that area as quickly. But we thought the opposite was going to happen. We thought we were going to get up here and it was going to be much worse. It's much better. Way down there is where we came from. We just passed a couple coming down from Lunch Lake. They spent the night up at Lunch Lake, so we're starting to see what I thought we were going to see earlier on. It's just a better time of day to see people coming down. Because like I said, we started early. They said it was fine. You can't see Mount Olympus, but there's a chance that could change by the end of the trip. If we were to get really strong westward winds, theoretically it's possible. I don't know how likely it is. The moss on these trees, it's really unlike anything I've seen in Montana or Colorado, Utah, obviously anywhere in the east, California, anywhere we backpacked. I think this is probably the prettiest forest that we've been in. And there are many like it here. Obviously the Enchanted Valley is really famous here. But in terms of the forest itself, the trees, I think this is probably an easy win. So we're now going to kind of follow this ridge line. But we passed another couple. They said they saw a bear at Lunch Lake, and they stayed there last night, and they gave us some tips on where the best spots are around the lake. We got a bear
trying to eat something
near the trail ahead of us. This is exactly actually what I was hoping would not happen. So we have a bear ahead of us on the trail, and this is actually the part of the trail where I was hoping this would not happen because, well, it's not a sheer bluff, but it's not a part of the trail I want to have to get off on if things go sideways. And it's right next to the trail, and unfortunately there's no way to hike around it. And it doesn't really seem to care that we're here. Hey bear! Hey bear! Alright, the bear is currently way over there, but it's still on the trail. Okay, we've had to hike like a quarter mile.
I can see him.
Where is he? Where at?
I just saw him.
Okay, I see him. Alright, so the bear debacle ended up being, well, probably over 2 mile detour. Basically, we turned around and had to hike about a mile until we could get to a part of the trail. There wasn't just a cliff on the one side and basically straight up vertical on the other side. We stopped there about 20 yards off the trail, waited about 20-25 minutes, and some other hikers came up from the opposite direction. 2 guys, they had bear spray. I had a firearm, so we all 4 of us went together. And as soon as we walked about 100 yards, we saw the bear on the trail again. Basically right, at that point the bear was right in the section where you can get off the trail. So we stood there for about another 10 minutes, watched it kind of just dilly-dally. Finally, it went off the trail enough where we could go off the trail the opposite way and go down and then come up around, which was pretty steep on the way back up, but basically it could have been a lot worse. If the bear had turned around and gone back the way it came on the trail, we would have been screwed because there would have been no way to get around it. Who knows how long it would have taken us to get down to the lake. It was a big bear. I mean, honestly, I'd say it's in the top
probably 2 largest black bears I've ever seen. It's definitely a male, and it was probably 400 pounds, at least. You know, I tend to try and avoid exaggerating because, you know, every bear you see is a big bear, but it was a big bear. I mean, for a black bear. We're almost to the lake now. There's actually a very steep descent into the lake area, the little offshoot that goes down into Lunch Lake. A little bit more of a decline than I thought we were gonna have, so we're gonna have to do this in reverse tomorrow morning. But tomorrow's a short day, so it shouldn't be too bad.
We got our tent all set up, and it took us a little while to find a campsite. There's a lot of trails that run all over around Lunch Lake, so there's a lot of exploring to do, and a lot of the campsites are set pretty far apart. Let me give you So right behind me there, that is the toilet, which, you know, is convenient. Some of the sites you have to walk, you have to hike 5 minutes to get to this toilet from the site that's the farthest from it. There's like a little miniature water source down here, which is really nice, so we don't have to go down to the main lake. There's little signs that say closed, like, I can't really tell what those are supposed to indicate. It looks like they're saying that those little trails are closed, and they're trying to let those trails regrow because they don't go anywhere, maybe. I'm not sure if it means you're not allowed to go down to this little pond. It's just very unclear. But this water is very shallow here, and it's getting heated by the sun a lot quicker than this huge lake. So it actually feels really good to fill up your water in there because your hands don't get really cold. There's other people here. There's got to be 2 or 3 other groups camping here, and we passed a couple people who are going down to another lake that's right down here to camp. So there's definitely other people out here. And I forgot to mention this. It just kept getting clearer and clearer and clearer as we hiked. So it's the best decision we ever made was not listening to the ranger who was at the gate where we paid, who basically told us that he didn't recommend it. Cannot smell smoke. It's not at all hard to breathe. The air quality up here is much better than it was when we first started to hike in at the trailhead. I mean, we've got partially blue skies, so we are definitely glad that we had ignored his, what was I'm sure well-intended advice, but ultimately probably bad advice. And it was definitely worth it, like I said. I mean, we flew out here from Nashville, so we just don't want to call it a day based on his recommendation, which basically just doing his job. You know, the air quality's not great. They're basically going to tell you, hey, you know, stay indoors, which is a little bit neurotic, but sometimes that's just the way people are.
I think this deer wants me to pet him. Hey, buddy.
We just packed up camp and we are headed out. We are headed towards Heart Lake, so we are hoping that we do not have any close encounters again with a bear. So we're going to see how we feel when we get to Heart Lake, which is about 4 miles from here. We have a permit to camp there tonight. There's a chance that we might hike all the way out, which would be about a little over 11 miles total. And we would probably just sleep in our car tonight with our sleeping bags and sleeping pads, because we have a room booked at Soul Duck Hot Springs Resort, which is right by the trailhead, but that's for tomorrow night, not tonight. So we could see if they have any availability tonight if we do hike out, but just going to see how we feel when we get to Heart Lake.
We got really lucky because we didn't think we were going to be able to see the glacier because of the smoke, and it just continued to get clearer throughout yesterday as we rose in elevation, and a little bit today. You can see obviously that there's some smoke way over there.
The views up here have just been phenomenal.
we're really glad that we decided to come this way and not turn back and go out the way we came in, just because we didn't know what the conditions are going to be, if it's going to be worth it, were we going to be able to see anything. We actually have excellent cell service up here. Here's the view behind us. We're still not sure if we're staying at Heart Lake or if we're gonna hike the whole way out. We're I don't know, maybe like a mile, 3/4 of a mile from Heart Lake. We've been going kind of slow because the views have been incredible. We actually had cell service, so I FaceTimed somebody. My wife called her family, I called my dad just to let him know everything was good. We've been yelling "Hey bear" a lot, just because a lot of blind corners, and with what happened yesterday, with us almost running into one, we don't want to repeat that. So we've been a lot more cautious today. Alright, we made it to Heart Lake. I'll give you a shot of it down here. What I like about this lake is that you don't have to decline very much from the trail to get to it. Where Lunch Lake, like if you're hiking by Lunch Lake, do not stop at Lunch Lake for water. Like plan around that somehow.
I might have to go in the tent.
It's been raining for the last probably 4 hours. We're in the tent, as you can see, so we decided to stop at Heart Lake to have lunch up on this hillside that overlooked it. It was like about 1:30 when we finished lunch. And to go back to the trailhead is about 7 miles roughly, a little bit over that maybe. So ultimately we decided to stay here. We could see from up there on the hill a really cool campsite. That's actually the spot that we took. Right before it rained, we got the tent set up, and then it was kind of sprinkling about 5 minutes into setting up my Z-Packs 8.5 by 10 tarp. The first time I've ever set it up. There's only really 2 trees that we could connect it to, so we had to really kind of rig it, but it ended up working, and it let us sit outside and enjoy the view for hours while it rained. And there's one other girl here who was at Lunch Lake last night. We saw her come in and she set up her tent. I don't know if there's anybody else. I heard people about 10 minutes ago. Yeah, I mean, since we started setting up the tarp, it really hasn't stopped raining. Just intermittently, it would stop. So we went down to filter water. And this lake is actually much better than Lunch Lake because the whole area around it, I think, is prettier. But also, it's not nearly as steep of a descent down into the lake. And to continue on the loop, you don't have to go back up out. You just keep going right past the lake. But the opposite with Lunch Lake. So Lunch Lake, as I said, you have to go down extremely steep. It's like 600 feet maybe. Don't quote me on that. So it's something like that. But it's basically stairs going down. And that's the only way out. So it kind of sucks in the morning. You fill up on water and you have to do this really steep climb to get out of there. And like I said earlier, there's only one trail to get out. And there was a bear near it. Luckily, it was far enough that we could still go. But if that bear were near the trail or on it and you didn't want to have to pass it, you just kind of just have to hang out until it went away or until it seared off. So we passed one group, actually, as we came down to get our campsite. They were hanging out having lunch. They said that they passed a group who saw 8 bears. And I don't know if that was they passed them at the trailhead coming out and they saw 8 on the total in the whole trip, the whole loop. But there are a ton of bears here. I mean, at this rate, I would be surprised if you did the whole loop and didn't see one. It's certainly possible, but if you did the whole loop as a day hike, which we did see a couple trail runners doing that, you might not see one. But if you're staying in one of these lakes, I would think you've got a pretty good shot if you're spending some time in camp and you can just check out the hillsides. Bear. Right. That black dot right there. In the center of the frame is a bear. Then both of those black dots are bears. So see that like ravine that runs up the crack? One right to the right of it, halfway up, and then towards the top of it as that ravine curves to the right. There's another one there. So we spotted yet another bear, so that makes 9 bears total for the trip. There were 2 over here on this side. There's 3 up here. These 3 are so close together that it absolutely has to be a family, or they're the most tolerant bears ever. 2 of them look to be about the same size, and one higher up on the hill looks to be smaller. And I wouldn't think that a mother bear would have 2 cubs that there's such a disparate difference in size. Like, it looks like 2 adults, basically, and then a third bear that's smaller. Which is weird. I'm not sure what to think of that. One of the ones over here took off running. Okay, so 2 of the ones over here have kind of basically taken off the other direction, sort of up the hill. And these 2 over here are kind of just moseying around. Or these 3. The smaller one is like way up. I mean, I'd show them to you on film, but they're just black dots. We just stopped for coffee and breakfast at Soul Duck Campground. So a short hike to that spot from Heart Lake. And there was actually a big group of people there. So we hung out with them. This group of probably like 8 guys and 1 girl from Texas. Really nice people. Hung out with them. Took a couple pictures for them. They are hiking out today as well. Yeah, so today should be an easy hike. It's downhill the whole way. Somewhere between 7 and 8 miles. My Gaia GPS app is never exactly correct. It's gonna fall somewhere in between there though. And again, last night, sorry I couldn't film more at Heart Lake, but it started raining as soon as we got the tent set up. So I had to put the camera in the tent. And then I got my tarp set up after that in the rain. And it's very windy, but it rained until we went to bed. So there was no way I could really film outside. I mean, I could have got a little bit of stuff from under the tarp, but I didn't want to get the camera wet. And I even wanted to get some better pictures of our campsite from way up top, but in the morning there were just too many bears around that area to go up there. So that's what we're hiking in. The sky is completely blue. We really lucked out on this trip because the people just one day before us had no views at all up at the top of the divide. Could not see Mount Olympus or anything. We're considering ourselves extremely fortunate. And today's been the nicest day. Other than the rain yesterday, we couldn't have really asked for a better, at least second half, probably 2/3 of the trip. So we're probably like 2 miles from the trailhead back to the car. We're staying at Soul Duck Hot Springs Resort, which is right at the trailhead, which would be nice. So we can use the hot springs, basically like a natural hot tub. And then we're headed over to Kalaloch, I think is how you pronounce it, Lodge, over on the coast. And we're gonna do some hikes over there on the beach, some day hikes. And we're gonna stay at the lodge, and then the next day we're driving back to Seattle to fly home. We made it back. We're at Soul Duck's Hot Spring Resort, which is right at the trailhead. And I just absolutely demolished a hamburger and fries. And this place is great. I mean, if you're gonna hike out and you're not going to get done until the afternoon. This is a great place to stay. They have like a natural hot spring here, hence the name. And basically what they've done is they built hot tubs on top of that, and they pump the water up out of the hot spring into the hot tub, and then they dilute it with water that's a little bit colder because the natural water from the hot spring is too hot to sit in. But let me give you a little shot of what it looks like. There's kind of little cabins. And tomorrow we're headed over to the coast to do like Ruby Beach and Rialto Beach, which is going to be really nice, I think, because it's cleared up a lot over the last couple days, so I'm not expecting any smoke over there at all. I think we're actually going to head back to Crescent Lodge tonight for dinner, which was really smoky when we were there a few days ago, and it's cleared up, so hopefully we're going to get to see the views of the lake that we unfortunately missed when we were staying there, because like I said, you saw in the video today, we had like crystal clear blue sky, so we're going to take advantage of that today, head over there for dinner, and hopefully we'll get to see what we missed out on earlier on the trip. Over behind me is the actual lodge itself. I don't believe there are any rooms there, but that's basically where they serve breakfast, where they serve dinner. There's the actual hot springs. Yeah, the cabins are kind of just sort of spread all around, and we're here to get breakfast, and then we're going to make the drive over to Rialto Beach, which is about 1 hour from here. So this is Ruby Beach. It's about 10 minutes from where we're staying. And if you're gonna check out the beaches, I definitely recommend this one over Rialto Beach. I think this is a lot more scenic. We did like Rialto Beach and then we walked to Hole in the Wall, which is probably a quarter or half mile up from the parking lot at Rialto Beach. But I think Ruby Beach is definitely better. There's actually far fewer people here, and it's low tide right now in the evening. It's about 6 p.m. So if you're in the Olympic area, I would definitely recommend Crescent Lake Lodge. So we're staying in what is called the Crescent Lake Suite. And as you can see, it has a bay window there. It's like a 180-degree view of the ocean. And there's another room on the second story as well that also has a pretty good view. I'm not sure how good the view is compared to this, but this room is huge. It has a huge vaulted ceiling. And you have your own private balcony out here with great views of the ocean. So let me show you some of these other cabins. There are basically cabins you can get that are right on the edge of the bluff, and then there are cabins you can get that are cheaper, that are set farther back. I'm pretty sure each cabin houses 2 different groups, so you share a wall basically. The reason that we chose this is because it was higher up, so I thought the views would be better. We didn't really want to share a wall because I heard that it can be kind of noisy with the people next to you. So I didn't get to film on this trip as much as I wanted to, primarily because the weather, also some other concerns. So I am going to upload either a separate video or as a supplement. I'm going to tack on to the end of this video kind of just some general tips, things we learned from doing the loop that might be helpful to you if you're thinking about doing the High Divide Loop in the Seven Lakes Basin. Because with all the research that I did beforehand, there were some things that I didn't find online that I think would be really helpful for people thinking about doing the loop in the future.